Well, good morning. Wow, it's loud. Sorry about that. I'll move back a little bit. I do want to welcome everyone here to the Pittsburgh Science and Technology Academy. My name is Bob Shear, and I'm the principal here at SciTech. We're both honored and privileged to host this event here today. The Pittsburgh Science and Technology Academy is a grade 6 to 12 magnet school here in the Pittsburgh Public School District. The school, which opened in 2009, features a unique academic program designed to take students who enter at a wide range of ability levels and support them as they pursue advanced coursework in emerging areas of science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM. We endeavor to meet the needs of all students, particularly those traditionally underrepresented in the STEM fields, females and students of color. Our mission is to provide daily opportunities for students interested in the STEM fields to develop skills for a career in life science, students for post-secondary success by providing a rigorous curriculum that requires advanced coursework and is characterized by excellent instruction, exploration, and a commitment to achievement. All students will leave the school connected to a post-secondary opportunity and graduate promise-ready, taking advantage of the Pittsburgh Promise. Any student in grades 6 through 10 living in the city of Pittsburgh is able to apply to the school through the Pittsburgh Public Schools magnet application process. Students are then selected through a lottery process. The lottery system has created a school that demographically is very similar to the entire Pittsburgh Public School District population and includes students who represent nearly every neighborhood in the city. At the end of 9th grade, students select one of 4 STEM concentrations in which to focus their studies for grades 10 through 12. These concentrations are body and behavior, computers and connections, environment and energy, and form and function. Each concentration involves a 7-course sequence that engages the students more deeply into the discipline. The concentration teachers at SciTech each have at least 2 years of real-world experience in the field, which allows them to make relevant connections with what the students are learning in each course. One of the 4 STEM concentrations that I would like to highlight is our Computers and Connections program. In this concentration, students take courses such as web design, database programming, hardware and software essentials, and computer programming and game design. In these courses, students learn skills in programming languages such as Java, networking principles, information security, robotics, and above all, problem solving. All 21st century skills that are in great demand not only here in the Pittsburgh region, but throughout the United States and even the world. It is in this vein that we are so excited to have Senator Robert Casey, Jr. here as he proposes new legislation involving K-12 computer science education. At this time, I would like to introduce the Mayor of Pittsburgh, Luke Ravenstahl.
Thank you, Dr. Shear, and good morning, everybody. It's great to be here, and thank you for hosting us this morning, and thank you for the work that continues to happen here at the Pittsburgh Science Technology Academy. Certainly, it's an opportunity for the youth of this great city to experience an academy and think big. And when you look at the motto, dream, discover, and design, I really think that says it all, and I want to congratulate you for the work that you're doing here, and congratulate the students that are here as well for the fine work that I know that you guys do here at the Academy. I also want to thank our partners with the STEM program, the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Initiative, for really collaborating and working together to allow these opportunities to exist. They include our fine higher ed institutions, all represented here today: Carnegie Mellon University, the University of Pittsburgh, and CCAC. Also want to thank the Pittsburgh Technology Council for their work. I want to thank, of course, the Allegheny Conference for being a leader in this effort as well. And finally, I want to thank and talk just for a brief minute about Google and the impact that they've had in Pittsburgh. To think that they started with, I think it was 2 employees here in the Pittsburgh region in an office downtown. They're now out in Bakery Square. The last time I checked, I think it's 150 employees. It's probably more than that now. And it's in a 5-year window that's happened. I know they love it here. They want to grow here. And that's really what we're talking about when we talk about an economy that's transformed itself, that's really looking towards the future in science, in math. That's what this institution is all about, and I know that's what Senator Casey is here to talk about as well. The Pittsburgh region has changed. It's transformed. It's a knowledge-based economy now. That's why schools like this are so important. The work and leadership at the school district has been instrumental in making that happen. The institutions of higher education here that allow us to prepare the best and the brightest in the future is critically important. And we all know when we look at the difficult time we find ourselves here in the economy today, that education is the key for the future of our country. For us to be competitive in a global economy, we have to continue to educate our young people and give them the resources and the opportunities to compete in this ever-demanding and ever-challenging global economy. And that's critically important. And Senator Casey understands that. That's why he's here today to talk about his legislation. We thank him for his leadership in this effort. It's not easy work. It is difficult work, but it's work that needs to be done if we're going to be successful. And the senator's here today to talk about education, but the senator has also been here time and time again for Pittsburgh to help us with these efforts. He's been a great partner to the city of Pittsburgh. He's been a great partner when it comes to education, and we're really, really excited that he's back here today to talk about his legislation and to continue to advocate for the need to put resources in place here in Pittsburgh and all throughout the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So, Senator Casey, thank you for your work. Welcome back, and let's give Senator Casey a big hand. Senator?
Thank you very much, Mayor. I really appreciate you being here and for your leadership on all these issues, whether it's, what does that mean? I guess that was a test. On all these issues that involve education, the workforce of this city and this region, and also your leadership on a lot of difficult issues. I was just kidding with the mayor that being an executive is always more difficult than being a legislator. So I said, if you have to run out the door before we're finished, I would understand that you've got other things to do. But I'm especially grateful that you spent the time here. And the mayor said it well about the contribution made by this school. Dr. Scheer met us at the door, and we were talking a little bit there, and I met DeAndre Johnson. And DeAndre, you're the president, right? Student body president. So if I can address you as Mr. President, would that be okay? No, but I think DeAndre is one of those students that personify not just the greatness of this school, but the essential nature of it. We need more schools like this in Pennsylvania and across the country. So I do want to thank everyone for being here. The mayor got us started in focusing on the important work done at this school, and I know that Dr. French is here as well, the Chief of School Performance. Is that for the school district? Is that the right title? I want to make sure. And I know that Andrew Moore from Google is here. Andrew in the first row, thank you very much for your work. The school district as well, I know, is represented. We've got employers here, folks from the University of Pittsburgh, folks from Carnegie Mellon, so many other, and I know there are other nonprofit agencies as well, or entities, I should say. I know that the DSF Foundation played a role as well, and I won't go further down the list, but I do want to thank everyone for making this possible, because what we're here to talk about is something very fundamental to all of our lives, and that's the future. And you know, I always quote Thomas Jefferson when he was in his 80s. In a letter to John Adams, he said, I like the dreams of the future better than the history of the past. So even as a very old man, Thomas Jefferson knew that we should always be focused on and intensely focused on what the future is. And fortunately, we live in a state, and folks here live in a region which has always had that as your focus, the future, not the past, but what happens next. And fortunately as well, the people of southwestern Pennsylvania and I think the Commonwealth as a whole, have never waited for that future to be determined by or dictated by anyone else. In this region, in this city, in this county, and in this region, you've invented the future before, and you're doing it again. And this school is evidence of that, that you're inventing the future. And it's consistent with the aspirations of the people of this region, but it's also consistent with the history and the heritage of Pennsylvania. We've been a state of innovators, we've been a state of inventors, and we've been a state of folks thinking about and working on and determining the future. And that's why this legislation is so important. What I'll do is walk through some of the elements of the legislation and then give you some of the reasons why I think we need the legislation. The first thing that this legislation focuses on in terms of the federal government helping our states is to provide some competitive opportunities, and it's important to say that. These are competitive grants, first of all, for planning. So that's the first kind of grant that a state would be eligible for. Planning grants for states and stakeholders to assess their K-12 computer science offerings and develop concrete steps to strengthen them. So we can't really make much progress unless we make that, every state makes an initial assessment. And it's badly needed right now in this field. The second the second type, I should say, of grant available to a state by way of this legislation would be the implementation grants for individual states in partnership with local school districts and institutions of higher education, as well as other entities. Because what we want to have happen across this Commonwealth and across the country is what you've done here, kind of public-private partnerships. We're not just relying upon government. Government plays a role, but we're also relying upon and engaging folks beyond the public sector. And these implementation grants would be targeted at the following. In order for states to develop computer science standards, it's that test again, standards, curriculum, and assessments. That's one priority in terms of these implementation grants. Improving access to underserved populations. Dr. Shearer mentioned that, and I'll get to that in a moment. Thirdly, creating professional development and teacher certification programs, vitally important in this endeavor. Establishing online classes and ensuring computer science offerings are an integral part of a core curriculum. All of that is part of what's happening here at this school, and part of that is really the focus for our work. Now, why do we need all this? Well, because if you see this chart on the right, you can see that red bar, which is a job projection, it just so happens that in all of these areas where you'll see growth, that computer science, the growth in those jobs are the most significant. If you look, and then this, of course, is a job openings from calendar year 2008 through 2012. So you see the Department of Labor and others telling us that there's going to be tremendous growth in computer science jobs. But the problem is, next to that computer science red bar are a couple of other bars that are too low. We're not getting enough young people involved in this course of study at a young age, and therefore that purple bar right next to the red bar, the bachelor's degree number, is too low. We can't expect to compete and win in the world economy if we're only going to have 40 or so, or less than 40,000 graduates with those degrees. Between 2008 and through 2018, it's projected by the Department of Labor that 1.5 million high-wage, let me say that again, high-wage computing jobs will be created in the United States. The largest growth area will be across, I should say, the science, technology, engineering, and math sector. So this computer science course of study is vitally important, not just to those high-paying jobs and how we can better access those jobs, but also it's important, I would argue, to our ability to compete in a world economy. Providing students with computer science education in elementary and secondary schools is critical to achieve success in the 21st century and, of course, That means our workforce. Computer science courses, unfortunately, and here's the bad news, are disappearing just when they are needed most. The number of introductory secondary school computer science courses has decreased by 17% just since 2005. So a sharp reduction just in the last couple of years in our high schools. The number of advanced placement computer science courses has decreased by 33%. So just when we need more students enrolled in these courses, just when we need states to focus more attention on this course of study, it's going in the wrong direction, and rapidly in the wrong direction. Disparities, as Dr. Scheer mentioned, disparities exist with at least two groups, minority students as well as women. And here are the numbers on that. Disparities in access to computer science education exist for women and minorities in this way. In 2008, 17% of AP computer science test takers were women, even though women represented 55% of all of the AP test takers. So 55% of the test takers are women, but only 17% are computer science. And only 4% of AP computer science test takers were African Americans, even though they represent 7% of the test takers. So we need to make sure that as we're focused on this as a priority, that we're especially focused on those populations that are underserved because they're, in a sense, in a very direct way, under-enrolled. So this legislation is not only vitally important for the broader economy and for our future workforce, but it's also timely. And it's why I introduced it a couple of weeks ago. We were supposed to be out here for an event a number of weeks ago, but the Senate calendar changed everything. But it's also timely because we just passed out of the Health, Education, Labor, Pensions Committee a new bill, a new reauthorization for elementary and secondary education. We made a lot of changes. We'll have a debate about those changes when it gets to the floor. But this is the time in the next couple of weeks and months to have an impact on education policy. So it's a very good time to focus the attention of the country and to focus the attention of our states and our policymakers on computer science education. So I'm going to be working very hard to make sure that we get this passed, either as part of the Elementary and Secondary Education Act or in some other way, because this is vitally important. And I think it's validated by not just the good work that you're doing here at the Academy, but also it's validated by the private sector and nonprofit sector investment and commitment to this. And that's why we're so grateful that Google is involved and so many others in the higher education institutions are so directly involved here. And so, Mr. President, Mr. Principal, we're grateful to be here, and we're grateful for your leadership in showing how this Academy can be a template for our Commonwealth, for our country, and most importantly, for our future. Thanks very much. Unless I'm told to introduce someone, I'll certainly take questions. Anyone else that wants? Anyone else on the, who wants to say a few words, or? Yes.
Hi, Senator. Thank you for being here. My company, Catalyst Connection, works with Western Pennsylvania manufacturers. And we all know that our history in manufacturing was largely driven by the convergence of natural resources. What we're finding in our client base is the natural resource that there is a gap with are Americans, particularly young Americans, that have the STEM education that could join a workforce in an industry that's driven more by innovation than by natural resources. And as a city resident, it's delightful to come here. And I still live in the city to see that this school, SciTech, is about preparing our future workforce. And I could tell our clients that there is hope, that we have a pipeline moving forward, and they're sitting back here, that they'll be joining this innovative, like the knowledge-based economy that we're so proud of support. But thank you for being with us.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And I failed to mention they do it, other than you, Mr. President, there are some other students here. Should they mind just introducing yourselves? Is that okay? Can you do that?
I was going to do it later, but if you want to do it now, that's fine.
You want to do it now? Can you do that?
No, absolutely. So actually, at the end of this, one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to introduce the names of the 4 students who are here. They're all part of our Computers and Connections concentration, and they're just going to take a brief moment and talk a little bit about some of the things that they're individually working on, and then they're actually going to spread out in this room. And so if you want to talk to one of the students and hear a little bit more about some of the things that they're doing, obviously you can follow up and do that. And we also have our 2 teachers that are part of that concentration in this room. I know Ms. Tanya Evans is over there. She's one of our Computers and Connections teachers. And is Ms. Galapudi in the back? And there's Ann Galapudi, who's our other Computers and Connections teacher. So I'll introduce the students, but we'll obviously make time for that at the end. So DeAndre Johnson, want to stand? Andre Johnson, Jonathan Strickland, Justin Hart, and Shantanu Bias. So they're here willing to share some of the things that we're doing. We couldn't be prouder of them because it's sometimes for some students a little scary to talk about what you're doing with a group of adults, but we do spend a lot of time in this building working on oral communication, the collaboration that they work with one another. So they're actually probably a little more, it's a little more natural for them to get up and speak with individuals than maybe in some other schools because it's just part of what we do here. It's part of what we do at SciTech, the way we do school. So thank you.
So in order to, you can ask them questions. I'll try to keep my answers really brief if there are questions. Anybody? Or we can talk in the back if you'd rather do that. Going once, going twice. Okay. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Now this time we are going to introduce Andrew Moore, the Vice President of Google, and he's going to discuss some ongoing local and national partnerships on STEM and computer science. So, Mr. Moore.
Thank you very much. I got to keep this brief because I am so fascinated to see what these guys are going to talk about. So let me just mention a few things. Firstly, my real deep respect and admiration for Pittsburgh Science and Technology Academy. This is absolutely what we need. This is that bar. The size of that bar is the thing that keeps me up at night. There's so much we want to do. We are really pushing forward in what we're doing in Google, but the biggest threat to us, and in fact our competitors and all the startups around us, is the lack of world expert creative folks. I want to be clear about something. We are not looking for people who are sort of dispassionate, purely numerical folks. We need people who actually understand mathematics and computer science deeply and are passionate about how it changes the world. And I just want to give you an example of something which this weekend we had to have an emergency discussion on among our group to see what it's like in the 21st century to be a computer scientist. We have an amazing experience which is partly rolled out now in Google for people who are doing queries related to clothes. Clothes actually turns out to be a fairly substantial proportion of all the queries. We have built some really nice artificial intelligence software which understands the way that clothes hang on bodies so that it can do things like show you similar clothes without getting confused by what's in the background or what the person's carrying. That was great. We suddenly realized we had an emergency. The data we had about the color of the clothes was all wrong. And so a few folks, some of them in California, some of them in Pittsburgh, had to get together for a sort of an emergency discussion on how to make it so that the computer could figure out, just by looking at the image, taking into account everything else that's going on, what's the correct color for those clothes. And so we were talking about mathematics, statistics, the physics of light, the fashion industry, what's considered important in understanding color, and we had to do this quickly and get it out. This, to me, is exactly the kind of fun thing and the fun thinking which I see in places like this, and which I just passionately hope like the country can get excited about in its middle schools and high schools. It's a really interesting time at the moment. I wanted to quickly mention that at Google Pittsburgh, we really care about this thing. We've now arranged a series of visits for folks from local middle schools to get a chance to see what life is like in this kind of environment. And we've now had, I think, almost 900 students coming through and taking part in a day of seeing what it's like to brainstorm in this industry. And it's always so exciting talking to these folks, and these are exactly the folks, once they've done their high school and bachelor studies in algorithms, statistics, artificial intelligence, these are exactly the kind of people that Google is desperately going to be seeking in the next decade. Anyway, I'm speaking as a citizen of Pittsburgh and as a member of the technology community. Thank you so much for what you're doing. Thank you so much for what you're doing, Senator. Thank you.
And finally, I'd like to introduce Dr. Janine French. Janine is the Chief of School Performance for the Pittsburgh Public Schools.
I have to confess that long red line keeps me awake at night as well, and as it should, that we have the responsibility to make sure that we're educating our children so that they can fulfill these jobs and move our community. We know, and all of us know, in education, we have some pretty challenging times. We have times of cuts and reductions. But what's really important and exciting here in Pittsburgh Public Schools is that we're committed to preserving and expanding the courses and programs that allow our children to be successful beyond high school. Technology is ever changing our world. And to better support our local economy and to be competitive in the global market, our children must have the skills and the habits of mind to be able to be great contributors to this change. For our children with a particular passion in technology, we have several specialty programs like here at the Science and Technology Academy, but we also have a computer science magnet at Pittsburgh Brashear, and we have a K-8 program at Pittsburgh Carmel Academy of Science and Technology. So here at Pittsburgh Public Schools, we are committed to preparing our children to take advantage of the Pittsburgh Promise and to pursue meaningful careers in high-demand fields such as technology and career sciences. So I'd like to take this time to thank Senator Casey for his support and also for his passion in making sure that he's pushing and leading the way so that all of our children have the opportunities to be able to participate in career science programs and provide them with the opportunity so that they can lead us into a better tomorrow. So thank you. And Dr. Scheer, this is your house. I'm going to turn it back over to you.
So I think what we will do at this point is we'll move the 4 students to the front of the room and sort of in the 4 corners. And if you have some additional questions for them about some of the things that they're doing here at SciTech, do you want to just take maybe a 15-second just overview of some of the things you might be sharing, DeAndre?
So over the summer, I actually had this great opportunity presented to me by Dr. Scheer, where we have a special IT department since we have over 400 laptops, and I was one of the students. I was the student who was able to take care to do the maintenance on those laptops over the summer. So I took it one step further. I currently am in the process of developing a program for the teachers and for the IT department that tracks laptops and tracks what has been done to the laptops as far as maintenance wise. I'll can share a little bit more detail about that if you'd like.
Thanks, DeAndre. Jonathan?
So Java is a really important language in the computer science field, and we're actually learning it here at SciTech, which is pretty great. And we have a really cool curriculum. We actually started learning Java by having a little simulation of a robot, and the robot can move around, but it's kind of a broken robot. There's some things that it can't do, like it can't exactly turn right. It can turn left, but not right. So what we had to do, we had to learn to use the basics of Java to fix the robot and to solve a lot of problems, and I can tell you more about that.
Thank you, Jonathan. Justin?
Hello, I'm on the SciTech robotics team, and I'm working with an actual robot. And what I do is I program the robot to do things that the user tells it to do with a controller and what it does on its own by making its own decisions based on either if you're using a sensor or you're just running around. Thank you.
Hi, one thing I worked on with computer hardware, I'm very interested in it. So I built my own computer, and I really went into a lot of depth in choosing which parts to build, and we were actually going over this in class. We were learning in our computer science class, and we were learning what each part does, what the processor does, and all that. I can tell you more about what I did.
Okay. Thank you, gentlemen. So we'll move those students into four corners here in the front of the room. You're welcome to talk with them, and I'm sure Senator Casey will be in the back of the room to answer some additional questions regarding his legislation. Thank you again all for being here today. We're so happy every time we can sort of share the SciTech story and share some of the things that are going on here. And we're just in our third year. I mean, we can't wait to see what this place looks like after year 5, after year 10. So we're still growing, and thank you, all of you in this room. Many of you have direct support of this school, and thank you so much for allowing us to become what we are right now. So have a great day, and